Do you believe that school is a scam?
100%. Come on, you think I'm going to backtrack on that? The people who control schools, they have a different agenda. The agenda is not education. You have the government and you have the church. If either the government or the church is taking away from schools, schools will be fine. If you are a coach and you have a team of 15 players, do you make those players compete among themselves or collaborate among themselves?
Collaborate. How about your language? Where did you learn how to read and write?
Okay, I see the trap you're trying to put me in. I love hanging out with people who can oppose me and give really concrete logical arguments because it helps me learn.
Talk to me about your thoughts on feminism.
We have to start changing things by banning feminism. It's toxic. It's the worst ideology that I've ever studied or known of.
They put up a post about Rinyu. You said majority of people supporting Rinyu are trying to look good in public. Majority of those supporting Nomad are those who tell you the hardcore truth without fear of judgment.
Sorry to say, but majority of these people are not educated. Educated means that when you're entering an industry as an actor in that industry, you need to know how the industry functions. What is the law governing music in Cameroon? Rinyu can be going left, right, up, down. Employees have to be paid. Rents have to be paid. Investors need to be compensated. The government needs to be paid taxes. All of those need to be taken into consideration.
What's up, my smart friend? Before you jump straight into this episode, there are 3 boxes I'd love you to check while you watch. First things first, please make sure to hit the subscribe or the follow button down below because the more we grow, the bigger guests we can approach on this platform and the more value we can bring to you here on the podcast. Second, a lot of friends always reach out to me and say something like, "Hey, Arrey, I really did enjoy this particular segment of this episode." What I want you to do, if you get to a point like that, pick up your phone and send this to a friend and say, "Hey, check this out between 10 to 15 minutes. There's something very important I'd love you to see." Number 3, please make sure to check out the links in the description for very helpful resources. You're going to find the link to join the Smart Club, which is my private mentorship club for friends who want to learn and master a high-income digital marketing skill. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, become a freelancer, or get a job in digital marketing, the Smart Club is going to be the right place for you. Also, you're going to find the link to join our 21,000 Smart Friends on email, where you're going to receive an email from me once every week. Plus, down below, you're also going to see links to connect with the guest. So please make sure you tick those 3 boxes and enjoy the rest of this episode.
Where do you get your mindset from?
I think I get my mindset from reading a lot. I don't have anybody who tells me these things. And I think it's the choice of books that I get. I read a lot of autobiographies. And almost everybody I read is an unconventional person. Bill Gates, biographies and autobiographies anyway. Be it Steve Jobs, be it Martin Luther King Jr., Woodrow Wilson, be it George Washington. I read a lot of biographies, and almost all of these people who got to be successful, all of them had a very unconventional mindset. None of them thought like every other person. I mean, it makes sense. There is no way you can think like everybody and then be distinguished from everybody. It's just logical, right? I always like studying the people who have done extraordinary things. I see how they think, I see what they did, and I try to emulate it.
Is that also where you get the bonus from? Because it's one thing to go, now I have unconventional thoughts. But the other thing is that ability to go. There was a time you wrote and you said, you said something like, I'll never delete what I said. To me, that was like so profound because I'm that kind of person. If I put them, I don't put them. I'm not taking it out. Where do you think the bonus comes from? Is it from the same source?
Well, maybe it's natural. To be honest, if you have beyond reasonable doubt proof that what you're saying is actually truth or is fact, I don't see why you should not be bold saying it. So when I say the things I say, it's because I've done a lot of research, I've experimented, I've tested, and I would love people to dispute it because one of the scientific characteristics of the fact is that it must be disputable. Okay, if not, it's not fact. It's going to be something like faith or anything like that, which cannot be disputed. Facts must be disputed. But the more research you've gone into it, and if you know that the people you're talking to haven't done as much research as you is talking about it has done, you can be bold talking to those people because you know whatever arguments they'll bring, you should have probably researched on that argument, and you'll be able to counter them very easily. So it will come naturally if you somebody who is really well researched, who researches well, who is well learned. I think it'll be very easy for you to be bold. There is really nothing to be scared about when you're talking to people and telling them that X is X, Y is Y, because you've done it, you've tried it out, you've seen even counter arguments, you've studied the counter arguments, and you come out and say it. So it's not just some blind boldness that we just want to show off or anything like that. And to a certain extent, I always say I really feel lonely sometimes when I talk because I really love people to come and counter me. And I make these crossing statements and I say, this is X, this is Y, this is Z. come counter me with real arguments. I really love that because it helps me learn and it helps me know the kind of people I can hang out with, because I love hanging out with people who can oppose me and give really concrete logical arguments when they oppose me. And if I don't see those people, why shouldn't I be bold in saying, in talking? Maybe I'll piss off more people and probably I'll find the right person to come talk to me. I don't know. Maybe.
Mhm. I love the way this is going, and I can already tell this is going to be an intellectual conversation. So for me, when I think about it, here's what I think: that people build their opinions and their mindsets based off of three things. All right. It's either from their childhood, and there might be more, but I think that there are three basically. It's either from your childhood, like the experiences. You'd hear an example, someone say, when you date a girl who has not had a father figure in their lives, this is why they might not know how to treat men, unless they decide to willingly learn it down the line in their life. The second thing is from influences. From influences, I think about it from mentors, from those around, from social media, which is increasingly becoming a very big one. And the third thing, which I think is even the most important, more powerful, is from personal experiences. Because when I go, hey, I don't like this, it's because of a personal experience. I'll give you an example. So one time I was invited to talk at a church in Cambridge. So I traveled over, went to Cambridge, spoke at the church, and I took about a 2-minute clip from that and I posted on social media. The moment I posted that, then I saw a very long comment. That guy wrote about maybe 12 paragraphs. You two have been brainwashed into all the gospels and the rest and all of these things that people are preaching and they're slaves. And I mean, he said quite a lot and really washed me down in the comment section. And the thing I did was I went to the comment and then I went, hello, bro. My Christianity is a personal experience. And this is the one thing I will not argue on social media about. And then I saw a bunch of people like, hey, that was really a good reply. You didn't go, you weren't very harsh and the rest. But it reminded me of the three things which I just said, is that people build their opinions based off of three things: public opinions, from childhood. And the second thing is like from influences. And then the third thing from personal experiences. And I know it's a very long explanation to get to the question I want to ask. But if you think about yourself, where will you think that most of these opinions you have built over time have come from? Is it from your childhood? Is there a part of it that comes from the influences, which I know you've mentioned a bit about? But also, how about the personal experiences? And I wanted you to talk about it in detail as you wish.
All right. I think I've spoken about the influencers whose biographies I spoke about reading. They did influence me a lot. And yes, you're right. A lot of it comes from childhood. A lot of it comes from personal experience. From the childhood perspective, I think I lived, 2 major lives. The first part of my life was a very timid, hidden, introvert part. I've met a lot of people who know me from primary school and early secondary school. They're going to be shocked to know that this is the same Cedric they know, because I was extremely timid. I grew up with a dad who was a teacher, a mom was a teacher. We grew up in one of the richest neighborhoods in Bamenda, Concha Street, and everybody around us we had like Fayengo Francis Governor, just by us. We had Amumezam, we had Guarantee, there were so many rich people living just by us, and we were like one of the poorest in that neighborhood. I mean, in appearance, I know my dad had a lot of cash, but we did not really have the facilities everybody had. All the kids had bicycles. When there are parties, we never get invited. Every house around us gets invited. We are the last to be invited. Even in school, the teachers had to give preference because in the school, in the neighborhood, everybody was a rich person. And so the teachers gave preference to the rich kids. And the poor kids, you guys should just find somewhere and be. They don't really pay attention to you. And so I was really timid. I really wasn't outgoing. Sports, I hardly participated because, in primary school, you want to play, they have to pick, a team leader has to pick everybody. He's going to pick the people who probably give him snacks during break, or you must be extremely talented.
Yeah.
So I was really, really, really timid in primary school. Now, when I got to secondary school, now my dad was supposed to send me to, I think this was the turning point in my life when I wrote the common entrance. So my dad said he was going to take me out of school and send me to a car spare parts shop to go learn business. He wanted me to
trade.
Trade. He wanted me to be an international businessman. He wanted that subsequently I should be involved in importing spare parts, maybe from the West to Cameroon, from Nigeria, starting with Nigeria. So it was fascinating to me because I was wondering what's going through his mind. Why does he want me to drop out of school? He's got all the money. Now, this caused a serious family problem. My mom had to intervene, and my aunts and uncles intervened, and my dad had to backtrack on that decision. Now,
at that time, sorry, not to cut, but at that time, what were you, if at all you did have an opinion on it, what was your own opinion at that time? Maybe you didn't think a lot about what was happening, or you already knew, I want to keep going.
I don't think this was something where I was a child. I was like 10 or I think 11.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think I wrote a common entrance at 10, and I was going to from 1 at 11. So I should have been 11 years old. I should have just been getting into 11 years old. So I really didn't know what was going on. I knew that my dad wants the best for me. My mom wants the best for me. Wherever they sent us, we went, actually. Even though we had preferences, when they come to school, they say, there was these forms they always brought. I don't know if you schooled during that time, or if they still do it now. If you schooled in the kind of schools during that time, there was this form they come in class 7 and they tell you, you should write down the schools you would wish to go to, first choice, second choice, third choice. Yeah. So I wrote all of those, and but I knew that my parents would know what's best for me. And wherever my dad was kind of a stern dad. If he tells you go, yeah, you should go. Don't you dare disrespect him. So I don't think I really had an opinion, but to be honest, I was a little bit towards my dad's end. And then when my mom intervened, I felt I was emotionally overtaken. And so I was like, okay, maybe my mom has got a point. And so I went with my mom. But that lesson stuck in my mind. Not a lesson, that incident stuck in my mind. Immediately I got done there, I was supposed to go to PSS, Mancon. I passed the interview. So my first choice for private school was PSS. First choice for government school was GBHS. So I passed the interview for PSS, and my dad was supposed to deposit 200,000, I beg your pardon. Unfortunately, he got into some crisis at that time, and he didn't have the cash. Now, I deliberately failed GBHS because I didn't want to go to GBHS. I meant that government school. Nobody wanted to go to the government school. But as you come to realize, it turns out going to the government school is actually what really formulated the majority of my opinions from the perspective of growing up. You had to go bribe GBHS, and I went now into GBHS out of bribery. When you bribe and you go to GBHS, you are the classes where they put the intelligent students were fast. They're different. It's really stratified. And the classes where they put the outcasts is different. So becoming an outcast brought out
in the B.
Exactly. So the whole intimidated, introvert, timid guy started leaving, because now I was among everybody who was rejected. The dull students, the poor students, the students who couldn't make it to boarding schools. I mean, not just the students who couldn't make it to boarding schools, but the students who couldn't make it to boarding schools and who couldn't make it to the government school. So they had to bribe to get into the government school. But they really failed, like the last on the list. And so that's how I got to meet a lot of friends who brought a different idea from what I was used to hearing. So I'd grown up with the rich kids, and they had told me, I'd heard all the fancy ideas. I'd seen the fancy side of life. Now I was with the poor kids, and I'd seen the other side of life. So to a certain extent, that's why I said I lived two lives. My first years in secondary school, as I had to become part of this gang, let me call it, we were actually really recalcitrant. There were a lot of terrible things going on. If you know Tamulong in Damina, it's a really gangster neighborhood. I actually became part of some of the gangs in that neighborhood from Form 1 to Form 2. And during that entire time, since in primary school, my results were always good. My results started dropping. And so my dad realized that I think my son is going wayward. So my dad had to put back the spirit of God in me through the week. From Form 3 right to upper 6, I a little bit came back to the timid guy. But now when I left but everything, all the experiences I had in Form 1 and Form 2 were the best experiences of my life. I think that was the first time I asked a girl out at 11. Well, maybe that wasn't the best experience of my life because she rejected me then. She was my daughter. So it wasn't that good. But the boldness to do that at 11, around 11, 12, is something that all the experiences stuck in my mind. And so when I had to leave school and I went to the high school and I went to the university, in the university now you become free. I went and met back the freedom that my dad had, let me say, taken away from me. Mm-hmm. And so in the university, I came back to the extrovert Cedric. And I did so much. I reached, I think, the highest levels of politics, leadership, and sports in the university. I used to train with the school team. I was University of West Students Union Secretary General for the White Party and Vice President for the Red Party. I was campaign manager for the Red Party. I was departmental president. I was faculty vice president. Faculty vice president because I rejected faculty president. And all of that, if you've been to UB, you know that you cannot have those positions if you're not a sociable person. Yeah. And all of that was because the other side of me had been longing to be expressed. And so you see this experience actually helps me master two sides of life. I could be a very serious intellectual. I could be in suit and tie today. And if you put me in the worst neighborhood in Douala, saying this without any pride, because I've been, without trying to brag, because it's happened when I came to Douala, I actually lived both sides. I'm a very good corporate guy, but I've also been in the worst neighborhoods in Douala at terrible times where there are fights and knives have been pulled out and all sorts of things are happening. And I know how to maneuver my way through all of these things. So it's a whole bunch of experiences that has really contributed to give me some of the kind of mindset I have. I've seen dropouts. I've seen people who go to school. I've seen rich people. I've seen poor people. I've seen the devilish people. I've seen the most Christian people. I've grown up as a gangster. I've grown up as a preacher. I have seen all the sides, all the extents of life. To the point where anybody who sees me, the corporate Cedric, will never believe that this Cedric has ever been a gangster. Everybody, when I go meet my gangster friends that I knew from the past, they will never believe that this Cedric has become corporate. Well, social media, I like to display my corporate self. So most people have come to realize that is who the Cedric is. And to be honest, that's the image I like portraying out there. And truly, I've left the other side of that life. But it's given me a lot of lessons which do contribute to the way I think today.
You started talking about school earlier. Do you believe that school is a scam?
100%. Come on. You think I'm going to backtrack on that? 100%. 10,000 reasons. I don't know. I have an article, 100 reasons why.
Well, top three. Here's what I think. The whole idea of school is very necessary because the very essence of school is not just limited to the education we get from it. When you have to wake up by 6 a.m. in the morning because you have to be in school by 7 a.m., that's a part of the discipline which the business world needs because you have to attend meetings on time. When you go to school and they say it's time for break and you have to, okay, you're taking a break to go and eat, you're taking a break to go and do this. So even the fact that you have to keep clean nails, you have to keep clean hair, you have to keep all of this, while there might not be very necessary thing in the contemporary business world right now because you can live the way you want, but the whole essence of the little discipline that we get from school, I think that is very necessary and which is what literally helps you to become who you are. Plus, right now you're speaking English that you learned from school. So, speak to me, convince me why you think I should believe with you that school is a scam.
So everything you've said, I could learn it out of school. And I've learned it better out of school. And I did learn it better out of school. I didn't learn discipline in school. I was the most indisciplined person in school. I never went to school early. Never. I didn't learn how to wake up early from school. Never. As a matter of fact, if you join a sports club, there is far more discipline there than school. If you join the military, there is far more discipline there than school. If you join so many social clubs, there's far more discipline there than school. I'm part of a sports club now, and you cannot come to sports late. You cannot miss a day of sports. You can't come for sports late. If you are sick and it's raining, you got to play. Right? I don't know if you've played in the school team, in any serious school team. Like I said, I tried.
Right now, I play football right now every Monday, 7 p.m. You don't miss it. For no reason.
Thank you. Well, didn't you miss classes in school?
But it does not mean that I agree with you, though.
But okay, another question is, Is that the purpose of school, to instill discipline? Is that what school's purpose is? Is that what school comes? Is that what they sell to you when you're going to school?
Right.
All right, they give you discipline and they don't give you education, and they don't give you any other education aside discipline. Are you happy? You're not happy, right?
Right. But I think that what we fail to understand and put things into perspective is that you are saying this because you are Cedric, are very disciplined. You are Cedric, are the kind of person who will go and look for the knowledge that you need. But not everybody is a kind of person who would go after what they need. For some people, it is that process. It is in that process that they build this discipline. But you would sit down and go, I need discipline in my life to become this business person.
I do that because I say school. Pardon the language. Because I say I don't care about school. That's why I have to push myself to go out there. When I talk to other people and I tell them, when I'm talking to people and telling them that school is the most useless thing you should look at, it's because immediately you step out of there. It's not just that you actually become, it's not like you magically become more intelligent, but immediately you step out of school, and let's define what school is. I mean the place with four walls where you go to have classes, like I'm going to school. I'm not talking of homeschooling. Homeschooling is school, I know. The church is school, the military is all like this are school, but you and I know that I'm talking about school, like every school we go to, University of Boya, University of Yale, Stanford, high school, XYZ. I'm talking of those kinds of schools. Immediately you step out of it, there is a certain realization which comes to you. And that realization is what? I'm not competing against the 30 students I was with in class. Because right now I'm out of school. What's the next thing I need? Okay, I need to eat. I need to survive. Where do I get money from? I'm not going to be looking among those 30 students. I need to look at the entire world. How can I get food from the world? Your brain opens tremendously, right? And so the discipline comes because you are not looking at yourself and saying, let me go to school at 7 a.m. before the other students or before the teacher who says he's going to come at 7 a.m. You're saying that when does Bill Gates go to work? When does Zuckerberg wake up? When does Elon Musk wake up? Now, you go and start reading Elon Musk. Elon Musk says that he wakes up at 4 a.m. He has to do some cardio. He has to do X, Y, Z. You say, okay, fine. I want to compete against Elon. Now, I want to wake up at 4. I want to do cardio. I want to do everything. So everybody who is not disciplined is because they're limiting themselves. And if you come to realize it, Arrey, every school that any human being went to tremendously determines how the person looks at life. So if you went to a school where we have a lot of boarding schools where discipline was top notch, where if you look at some of the boarding schools where some of the students came from, where the dressing had to be on point, right up to when the ex-students of those schools die, they are always dressed and their dressing is on point. There is no mistake about it, right? If you look at the schools where you leave the school, everybody is scattered. By the time you go to in the future in your life, almost everything about you is going to be scattered. Right? The school determines a lot which is going to be happening. Now, if you are going to be sitting and your destiny is going to be predetermined by a class of 50 students, that's too small for me. It's ridiculous. You know what happens when you study at, let's take any other version of education, homeschooling, for example, or let's take a self-study, autodidactism. You know what happens? You're not competing against the 30 students you're sitting with. Because when you go to school, at the end of the term, they say you have, Cedric is first. Cedric in GBHS Bamenda is first. But if Cedric went to Sacred Heart, he'll be last. The Cedric in Sacred Heart who is first, if you went to Yale, if you went to some Oxford or some high school in some other country, he's going to be last. Absolutely.
So if it was left to you, would you say that school should be taken away, the school system should be taken away?
Absolutely. There are two things which need to be, which contribute to the school system. If those things are taken away, I think school will try. And those things will never. You have the government and you have the church. If either the government or the church is taking away from schools will be fine. But that's never going to happen. First, the government is never going to leave school, and churches are never going to leave school. You know why?
The government plays a major part in building like the curriculum and everything. How does the church play a part in the school system?
Well, I went to the Catholic school system, and every day we had to pray, we had to kneel in front of the cross. Everybody who is in the Presbyterian school system needs to know how to pray the Presbyterian style. Everybody who went to full gospel secondary school speaks in tongues. Well, I had full gospel none that speaks in tongues. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to
so how is that bad to the school system?
what I'm trying to say is that the people who control schools, they have a different agenda. The agenda is not education. If the agenda was education, there are a lot of things. You just told me to name the three biggest points against school. I'll name them, and you'll see that all of those things are tied to an agenda from those different institutions. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad agenda. If I was president of Cameroon today, I'm going to the biggest weapon I'll use is the school, because I need to teach people how to live in a conducive, peaceful environment which makes the country grow. It's very important. It's absolutely important. I'm not downplaying it. But now, if you get the wrong person, and we always get the wrong people, and we put at the top, that person's agenda is going to trickle down. Right? So if the authorities are corrupt in school, there's going to be corruption. You and I went to the University of Boya, I believe.
Yeah.
You saw how the University of Boya Student Union was corrupt. We know that it was corrupt. I know it was corrupt because I was vice president, I was secretary general. I was actually supposed to run for president if I decided to stay one more year in the university, like most of those who became presidents did. Right? Because the next year was my tenure, and I'm very certain I would have won. There's no election I've gone to that I remember that I lost. I'm certain I would have won. Right? So if at the top of the government, corruption is the main thing, it's going to trickle down to school. And how do we ensure that the government has the right people in place to make school a system that education is at least going to be 60%? And even at that, the society still needs people who will not be brainwashed by the remaining 40%, because the rest of it is brainwashing. When you go to school, they teach you history. It's the history that the government has given to you. Do you know every other history which occurred in Cameroon? Any other thing which happened? I mean, we have a lot which happened in history, written in other history books, which nobody has read because the government is putting in the school curriculum. Same thing with the church. The church also decides what books it's going to be giving and recommending to its schools, and forces the students to read those books. Now, when you step out of the school system, you realize that you do not have to do what your teacher is telling you. If you need to know trigonometry, it's not what the teacher told you that you need to learn to know trigonometry. You need to learn it by all means possible. If you want to know the history of Cameroon, it's not what Julius Ngwa wrote, which the government has said should be taught in school. It's a very small myopic wall where you can control everybody very easily, very, very easily. And when you step out of school, you realize that those people don't have any other control over it. Those people don't have control over you anymore. And you're going to be expanding tremendously. So if it comes to something like discipline, if we can go back to that, you cannot say my discipline came from school. Absolutely not.
Because how about your language?
Oh, please don't bring that one. That's.
Where do you think it came from? Where did you learn to read where did you learn how to read and write?
I remember, okay. I see the trap you're trying to put me in. It's a good one. Of course, school contributed to teach me how to read and write. Okay, but my ability to communicate has almost nothing to do with school. As a matter of fact,
would you still say that at least for the fact that school teaches how to read and write, that's still a good thing?
It's a good thing. I didn't say it's a bad thing.
Learning to read and write is a first step, and then communicating is what you develop.
It's bad. I said it should be scrapped out, and I said it's useless. School is useless. Of course, I mean, if I say an apple is useless, we could still use that apple as manure. So school could probably be used as manure. So school is.
What are the three things you talked about?
Well, the three top things which the three biggest problems I have with school is, number one, the limitations which school imposes on your ability to excel. Where do these limitations come from? The first place the limitation comes from is because school bundles you up with a group of people. And so school tries to tally your intelligence vis-a-vis those people's intelligence. Okay. The fact that you sit in a classroom and they're teaching you based on everybody's intelligence in that classroom is very problematic. Okay? Right now, I run a firm where we have a training program where it's law. I imposed it first day we started that training program. Never should there be an occasion where any instructor gathers students and puts in a classroom and sit in front of them and starts talking. It's prohibited. Every student is going to sit alone in front of the instructor. And there is a point where, not that there is a point, before you sit in front of the instructor, it should be because the student has a difficulty in comprehending and wants the instructor to explain it. What does that mean? Number one, you're not limiting the student's intelligence with those around him. Because if you take 50 students and put in class, when the instructor starts talking, who is he talking to? Is he talking to the smart student, to the dumb student, to the student he likes, to the student he doesn't like, to the student who can study maths fast, or the one who can study history fast, to the student who is more right-brained, or the one who is more left-brained, to the one who is hungry, to the one who is sleepy, to the one who is satisfied, to the one who is feeling like he wants to pee, to the one who stepped out to go to the toilet? Who are you talking to? What kind of a system of education is that? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The fact that you carry everybody and suppose that everybody is the same and you're putting everybody in that cluster causes a lot of issues. And that's why one person is going to be number one, another person will be number two. And school really tallies it. And they are not ashamed to say that this guy is first, this guy is second, this guy is third. You're actually telling the teacher that you couldn't make everybody pass your course. It's terrible. Why did they pay you then? It's unbelievable.
No, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I start to agree with you. But I think that, for example, what you talked about, and I know you still have to list, I think it's the second and the third point, what you talked about, because the whole idea is man is competitive. We want to go, and just like you're in business, at the end of the day, we know that we are not in direct fight with our competitors, but we know that we check them out to see what they are doing so that we can beat their records. If I run a marketing agency, if I speak to someone who say, hey, I started doing marketing with these other people, I'm like, what was the experience like? What do they do things like me? Do they do this? And I'm trying, not because I want to compare, but because I'm competitive. I need to up my game. And it's the same. You posted on your own social media. You said you're one of Africa's best IT professionals, which means that the very whole essence of us trying to compete in school, I know you're boiling, the very whole essence of us trying to compete in school is a very thing we still meet in the outside world, because the competitiveness is what actually brings out the best in us. Yes, if you are talking about the essence of not standing in front of a tutor, what do you think replaces that? Yeah, you can respond to what I just said before you answer the questions. Okay.
Yeah. If you are a coach and you have a team of 15 players, do you make those players compete among themselves or collaborate among themselves?
Collaborate.
So what you're saying is that about school bringing the competitiveness doesn't make any sense. Now, if school made those students collaborate as it happens in the real world, because when those students will leave and go to the real world, all those answers they were hiding is the ones who want steal answers who become the best in the real world. If you actually made them collaborate,
because they understand the game of life.
I will agree with you. If you are in a team, you guys are not supposed to be competing. Now, where is the competition supposed to come from? Now, it's segmented. Now, you tell me that probably the school could work as a team, but one school is going to compete against another school. That's another level. Ultimately, you come to realize that in life, no matter what you do.
Before you continue to watch the rest of this episode, here's what I want you to say.
If I am to rate Smart Club, I'm going to rate it a 9.5 on 10. I'm only taking that 0.5 because perfection leaves no room for development.
He's known for his expertise and innovative problem-solving skills.
Arrey is so practical at what he does.
Hello, this is Flora from the Smart Club.
I joined the Smart Club because I wanted to acquire more skills.
I wanted to acquire more knowledge and skills.
The Smart Club gives you an opportunity to have a one-on-one talk with ARREYB.
It is very innovative.
I have an agile way of thinking now.
We learned a lot, becoming T-shaped, content creation.
These are friends who joined the Smart Club and have been building the skills with us for the last couple of years. Maybe you're asking yourself right now, Arrey, what's Smart Club all about? The Smart Club is my private mentorship club that I built for friends who want to master a high-income digital marketing skill. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, become a freelancer, or you want to get a job in digital marketing, the Smart Club is the right place for you. Registration has officially opened for the next batch of students. If this sounds like something that you'll be interested in, please don't hesitate to check out the link in the description and join us and build your digital marketing skill.
The best competitors are those who secretly collaborate with their competitors, in quotes. Look at it carefully. The best people, the people who excel most, whether they are competing or not, are those who walk around collaborating. And that's why in school, if there is anybody who can figure out how to steal answers from everybody, that person is going to be the best student without being caught. That person is going to be the best student, possibly, because he's just going to look for the best students, steal all the best students' answers, and try to improve them. And so, for me, that point will not really stand. School is supposed to make us collaborate, not compete. And school is supposed to teach us how to collaborate and how not to treat competitors as bad people, hiding our books and all of that. Nope. If you are truly better than somebody, I always come to social media and I talk about my business strategies. Why do I talk about them? Because I think that I'm talking about it, and the things that make me better than you is not necessarily the strategy that I'm talking about, but the things that I have inside of me, my resilience, my ambition, my hard work, every other thing that I've got. I'll give you the strategies you would not be able to beat me, right? So rather than encouraging competition, school should be encouraging cooperation. And honestly, that problem is going to be solved. So it's really a terrible thing for school to be going around telling students you have to compete with each other. This person is supposed to be first, second, third. Because if I hire you as a coach for my team, say I'm the president of a football club, I hire you as coach of the team, and you come and tell me that this player is first, this player is second, this player is third, this player is fourth, I'll fire you. I need this player to be the best at his position. Meaning, we've got two attackers. And we know that if one, that's how Guardiola plays if we go to football. Right? Because Guardiola knows that if Haaland is not there, I don't know who replaces Haaland, Alvarez. When Haaland was injured, Manchester City took over everybody. Because Guardiola, his number one and number two are the absolute best. So if you are a teacher or you are a coach of a team, you come and tell me that this guy is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and this man is number 30, I'm firing you. Everybody has to be the best at everything they are doing. That's how school is supposed to make it. What school is supposed to do, instead of saying this man is number one, this one is number 2, 3, 4, say that these two people are good at maths. We need to make these people master maths to the level that the teacher masters it. You guys are mathematicians. These two people are historians. We need to get them to the level of mastery that the history teacher masters. Those people are historians. That's how we progress. We're not going to say this one is the first, this one is the second, this one is the third. And some student who had 20 on 20 in math, he's last because he failed history, French, literature, and all the others. We cannot grow like that, Arrey, to be honest. School does it. We can't grow like that.
If I listen to what you're saying, I think it sounds to me like school is still a good thing. Well, let me rephrase that in a good way, because most of what you've said is, look, if we change, you've talked about a few things that we can change in the school system. So how about instead of saying school is useless, the message should be, hey, the school system needs to be revamped. Wouldn't that be a better message to send across?
Yeah, I don't need this school system to be changed. Every system is controlled by somebody and created by somebody. I've told you, as long as those two entities control the school system, it's never going to work. Homeschooling is
and even if we take away the two people who are controlling the school system, it has to be handed down to other people who will still control the system.
It's because I saw that it will never be taken away from those people that I said is useless. But if it's taken, yes, it will. If it's taken, who will you hand it to, though? Let me ask you that. Who will you hand it to?
Good question. I've never thought of it, because I've never said the school is a scam.
And why? Oh, thank you. So let me answer. And why do you think the biggest geniuses, even though they get to carry out research in schools, because that's where the research is going to get accepted, they develop their genius out of school? It's because they came out and learned in a system which does not give them those limitations, which is not dogmatic, which is not following an agenda, right? Everybody who created the greatest thing, Ford who created, he didn't create division of labor, but who made division of labor become very popular, Adam Smith and all the rest, they went to factories and they observed managers who never learned those things in school, implementing those things. And mind you, is the people who learn out of school who teach school what to do, not the opposite. Many of us think that it's schools which teaches us what to do, and we go out to the world and implement those things. That's one of the biggest lies schools have ever taught us. What happens is that researchers go to the field, they observe what's happening, they look at successful companies, they develop theories from those things, they back up the theory with experiments, and they draw conclusions from it. And if the conclusions are valid, they get into the school curriculum as a theory to be taught.
Yeah.
On the other hand, school is rather trying to make us understand that a theory is formed in school and taught to us, and then we go to the field and implement the theory. Lies. Before Elon Musk, astronomy was rockets go to space, explode. Elon came. He never studied rocket science in school. But he built rockets. He said he's going to build rockets which go to space and come back. NASA refused. Everybody called him a joke. Everybody refused to give him funding. When he did it, you go now to every astronomy curriculum, they're going to tell you there are two kinds of rockets. Those which go up and explode, which the old NASA and all the rest use. Those which go up and come down. Almost everything which is created. And in this kind of a system, Arrey, how do you expect a system where the researchers have to go out and study new things and come back and teach people? How do you expect the people in that system to be the pioneer innovators when they are supposed to be listening to what their teachers are telling them and applying it? It's those who break away from it and think for themselves, think out of that tiny box called school, who really create the things that school comes now and studies and says, oh, this is an amazing thing. Let's go implement it. This is something that we have seen. Let's go implement it. Right? So I don't know who you're going to carry the school system and give it to that the person is going to improve it. What I'm saying is that everybody should step out of that system and compete with the world. Look at the world, create things for the world. Don't create things for your teacher, for your student, for your school, for your classmate. Come out and look at the world and say, all right, okay, right now global warming is coming and temperatures have really increased, sea level has risen. What can I do? When I sit in class and the teacher says global warming increases, we need to plant trees, we need to do X, Y, Z. They said they need to plant trees because the people who were out of school planted trees and they saw the consequences. And you know who those people were? Africans. Africans who are the least educated. It's because they saw that the amount of emission from Africa is probably low, or the areas where we have a lot of green vegetation, they have the least amount of those emissions. They say, okay, fine, let's do what these people are doing. Now let's come to school. Now, if you sitting out of the school system, not observing that phenomenon, we're thinking on your own, you bring out solutions for global warming, which no teacher knows about. And that's how you be called an innovator. And why would I go waste my time to be listening to what other people have already developed and school has taken and experimented and developed theories on? I'm not saying that everybody should just go and not study past knowledge. That's not what I'm saying. To be able to be an innovator, you must know what the previous innovators have done. What I'm saying is that after studying others, and even the best way to study others is out of what the teacher is telling you, because even the teacher himself might be dumber than you. If you study it on your own, you are limited by the teacher's intelligence. Rather than sticking and listening to the teacher, step out of that system, break out.
If you are raising kids right now, what would be your way forward on how to raise kids based on what you've said and how you think that they can easily be groomed into understanding what the real world is about?
Oh, before I date any girl, I make sure I agree on that point with them before I even start thinking of raising kids. So trust me, I'm not saying this because I want to be popular. I want people to talk about me. it's basically something I believe in. I can't be saying something I believe
People
in.
have to talk about if school is a scam, or what are you people agreeing on before you date the person?
Our children are going to be educated elsewhere, not in school.
Right.
Number one, homeschooling. I think I've worked very hard to have the money to afford homeschooling. I would do that. And number two, there are several systems of education which break out of school. So many. There is a book I read, How to Learn. I think that's the book. Is it How to Learn? I've forgotten the book.
Yeah, I think I've come across a book like that.
It teaches you how to learn on your own. That's another system of education, learning on your own. Since when the children start off, they're going to be very young and they'll need guidance. Number one is going to be homeschooling. At a certain age, I think when they're very young, probably 8, 9, 10, they'll go into autodidactism. They're going to start learning on their own based on a certain guidance. There'll be no teacher standing in front of them to tell them that this is so, this is so, this is so, this is so, this is so. What the teacher is going to be doing is listening to them, say that I want to do it like this, like this, like this. And the teacher must be somebody who is as open-minded as I am to look at it and say, okay, go ahead and do that. Let's see what happens. And if he does it or she does it, that's my future kid, and fails, that is absolutely the best way they're going to learn. Because they'll never do it that way again. And when they do it and succeed, it's not somebody who taught them how to do it. They taught themselves. And that book tells you that the things you teach yourself, you will never forget. Ever. The things somebody teaches you, as you step out of a class, you've forgotten. Absolutely. That's exactly how my kids are going to do.
Based on what you're saying and the kind of, coupled with who I know you to be, do you think that's going to be easy for you to just find love and find someone who is going to agree on all of those things?
Absolutely. It's going to be easy. Come on. There are a lot of home. It's a real job. You have a lot of people who advertise themselves as home tutors. You have so many. There are a lot of them. There's so many of them.
I mean, a partner who goes, okay, yes, we're going to agree on this. Yes, we agree on this.
I think I found them already. So,
no, okay.
And they're not that rare to find. They're not that hard to find, as a matter of fact.
You said them.
I think I found the person.
Okay. I wanted to understand if you're going towards, maybe my next question would have been, are you a polygamist, or let me
no, I think I found her. Okay. I'm not a polygamist, I'm not a bilingual person, or transgender or anything. No.
Well, I really did like something that you wrote a couple of days back about feminism, which I think was the reality of what the reality was, what you penned down. Talk to me about your thoughts on feminism and how you think that we can start to change things.
Oh my God, we can start to change things. Do you want to get? I hope you not get cancelled, because we have to start changing things by banning feminism. It's supposed to be eliminated. It's toxic. It's the worst ideology that I've ever studied or known of. I mean, there was what we call le libertinage in France at one time, which was really terrible. The Age of Enlightenment was good, but it had some really bad things. Feminism introduced every terrible thing we are seeing today. Maybe feminism developed as a great theory, but feminism introduced almost everything which is wrong with the world today. There is wokeism, everybody getting woke. There is, I consider it wrong, LGBTQ and whatever extensions they want to add to it. It is terrible. There is a lot going on right now. You see activists of almost everything causing vandalism instead of protecting. You find activists of nature, like environmental activists. They are one of the most vandal groups you will ever find. Okay, all of this it's somehow rooted and linked to feminism. Why? Because feminism developed as an ideology to help equality of sexes, which is very important. I will not underestimate the terrible things which were being done to women in the past. It was terrible, and sometimes I blame men for the way feminism turned out, because some men were really terrible towards women. Some societies really treated women terribly.
Extreme.
Yeah, that was a great theory. Okay, but even at the time when those women were being treated negatively, there were also segments of society where women were elevated and men would have been considered to be treated poorly. For example, in almost every society, when there is war, you do not touch women, you do not touch children. The only people you kill are men. Right? Would you say that was a good treatment? It wasn't. But in my opinion, it was stable. Okay? Made the society stable. We didn't complain. We are not saying women should get into the army. As a matter of fact, I don't like women getting into the army unless you're really, really rugged that you can get into the army. I don't even want children getting into the army. Okay? You had men the society said man's role was to protect a woman. You wouldn't allow a woman to be carrying a heavy bag. It's taboo. In certain societies, the woman's husband is going to be called a disgrace if that woman suffers. That's how it was, including the African society where we say the inequality of gender was highest. Okay. Now, feminism came and said, what? Let's make genders equal. Now, while making gender equal, feminism turns to focus so much on women. And let's try to elevate women more. Let's push women ahead. Let's do X, Y, Z. This caused two problems. The first is that all women are going to agree with you. Women are more left-brained. They are more emotional. Okay?
Than logical.
Are more logical. Right? So the first problem that caused was that when you elevate women more, you're making the society more emotional. And you're killing the logical side of society. And when you kill the logical side of society, both of those parts of society have to exist. And they existed before feminism. But when feminism came, it elevated
emotions,
the feminism
logic.
so that emotions became so elevated. And so what happened? If you are a man and you are stifling your emotions, is disgraceful. So they encourage men to become emotional. And mind you, if men become more emotional, society is going to be seriously imbalanced. And so they say it's okay for men to cry. It's okay if a man doesn't want to go to the army. It's okay if the man doesn't want to do hard work. It continued. It's okay if the man wants to put lipstick. It's okay if the man wants to dress like a woman. It's okay if the man wants to talk like a woman. It continued. It's okay if the man wants to actually become a woman. How did that go further now? It went to the level of government. We infiltrated. Feminism had to infiltrate the government. In government circles, you have leaders. Leadership is one of the roles where you need an absolute balance of emotions and logic. But every leader who acts by logic today is a dictator. It's called a dictator. So in the leadership roles, you have leaders who immediately a small group of just 2% of the population wakes up and says that this leader is unpopular because he hasn't ratified XYZ opinion, which is believed by 5% of the people. The leader has to follow his emotions and agree, rather than doing as it was always done, maybe a referendum, maybe an election to see the opinion of the people and say, what do the majority of people think? Many of these laws on abortion in so many countries which they have been accepted, the majority of the population does not agree with it. Laws on LGBTQ in countries which they have been validated, majority of the population does not agree with it. Laws on bestiality, laws on what's the act? There's this act of stopping when a kid wants to get to puberty, like a boy. You have these things which are injected into the kid to stop their male hormones from growing. Is been approved in several states, several countries.
And I think that's very, very important. What you're saying is, in most cases, instead of going, because 2% of the population believes this, let's adopt it, a better way to approach it will be a referendum. A better way to approach it might be, hey, let's quiz the population from the leadership.
necessarily a better way. We need to balance it out. Now, if that's the emotional way, yeah, you're afraid that 2%, the leader is afraid that 2% can make him to be toppled down. You need to balance it out, right? You need to, first of all, look at the logical side. How many people in our population say that we should do this thing? And in my opinion, if 95% say that, okay, we don't want you to do it, you shouldn't do it, right? Logic goes with that. Logic is straightforward. 1 + 1 is 2, right? Percentages, there is nothing about that. Now, there is also the emotional side. Now, you need to start looking. The people who want to become women instead of maintaining their biological male identity, let's look at them empathetically. What are they thinking? What's going through their brain? Let's get to understand it. If we can reason with them empathetically, we would help them far better than just saying, yes, let's agree. Because how many of those people have come out regretting that they mutilated their body parts? How many of them have come out regretting that they don't have kids? How many of them have come out regretting that they are getting all sorts of sicknesses, all sorts of cancerous diseases affecting them? Do we get to think psychologically, look at them and say that, what's wrong with these people? No. The leader, because that pressure group has mounted on them, he decides to act emotionally. That's number one. How that the world now is an emotional world, Arrey. If you look at it, everybody now who comes out and talks about anything which goes beyond emotions, that person is cancelled. The person is stifled. There is this whole wokeism where everybody wants to be woke. And I mean, everything you see going wrong is because we are reasoning emotionally. We no longer think logically. So that's how bit by bit feminism trickled into our system and we got to that level. The second is what? Now, when feminism started neglecting the men and the men started complaining, feminists now said, yeah, we think we should bring the men into the argument because it's going to seem unfair. So they didn't want to look like they were favoring women and hating men. So they said, what did they say? Now, everything we say about the woman, let's encourage men to do it too. If we discourage men from doing it, it's discriminatory. So everything feminists said about women, starting from, number one, don't tell women what to do. If a woman wants to do something, let her do it. Feminists want that. You don't tell a woman what to do. Number two, the woman's body is her property. Don't tell a woman how to use her body. The way she wants to use her body is her property. She should use it. Number three, however a woman wants to talk, let her talk. Number four, however a woman wants to dress, let her dress. If she wants to put on trousers, let her put on trousers. If she wants to pierce her nose, let her pierce her nose. If she wants to pierce her lips, let her pierce her lips. If she wants to pierce her private parts, let her pierce her private parts. That is all. If you wake up one day and tell a woman that don't do this, feminists will climb on your head. To make it look balanced, they said, let's say the same thing about men. If not, it will sound discriminatory. Now, men, if you want to do anything, do it. If you want to pierce your nose, pierce your nose. Your body is your property. Use your body the way you like. If you want to put your private part into anything, that's your body. It's up to you. Do what you like. Whatever it is you want to do, as long as you like doing that thing, do it. Because if we tell you, man, not to do anything that you like doing, we are forced to tell the woman to stop doing that thing. And if we tell the woman to stop doing that thing, the world is going to spiral back into how it was before feminism came, and feminism will be dead. Do you see how that created a wall of absolute freedom where we went overbound and everybody started doing anything? Anybody can be anything. I can identify as a woman. You can identify as a book. And nobody can say anything. Why? Because I have a right. It's my body. It's my mind. It's my everything. I can decide to change my private part and put a female private part. That's not your business. I can decide to have sexual intercourse with a man. It's my body. It's my decision. And do you know where this is going to go to? I can decide to say, I don't want my neighbor to live by me. I'm free to do what I want with my space. I don't want my neighbor. So tomorrow, I don't want you. We've seen it in videos where someone actually walks to his neighbor and tells him, I don't like you planting grass. I don't like you planting flowers. I don't like you doing this. I don't like you painting your house this color. All of that came because feminism is the biggest theory which came to bring that amount of terrible, illogical freedom. It killed logic so much that it brought the most stupid idea that just because something ties with someone's emotions, we just have to agree with that thing. And the world today is a world where everybody is acting in the most illogical way. It's infiltrated the government. If you wake up and tell the government that, okay, right now, women have a right to kill their babies as long as they are less than 5 years old, and you have 5% of the population who wake up and say they are offended, if you deny that, it could be ratified, Arrey. I'm telling you, even if it defeats all logic, it could be ratified. If a group of people wake up and say, we feel that we are racially abused because you guys are using XYZ word on us, just because that emotional wall has become the trending thing now. If 1% of the population wake up and say that we are feeling racially abused, as long as that's how they feel, you have to respect them. If you want to do anything, and 5% of the population say that's how we feel, we are offended. If you deny us from doing this thing, governments will ratify that thing. Can you name me anything that some government has been refusing, except the logical government, the governments which are still logical, like the eastern side of the world and in Africa? In the sites where feminism has taken over and the emotional side has taken over the logical side, almost everything, as long as someone feels that they are offended by something, they have a right to tell you to stop doing that thing. All right? Arrey, if I'm succeeding in my business and another person is offended, if 5% of the people wake up and say rich people don't have to be this successful because we feel offended, trust me, they're going to increase taxes on rich people. I'm telling you, that's how it is. Logic has gone out of the door. And all of this is due to the feminist movement.
Interesting. I think that you're saying a lot of things that's making me process. I don't think I've fully built my thoughts and opinions around it. What I can't even counteract because I have not fully built my opinions around that. But it's just getting me to think.
I think it's not something I read. I didn't read it from somewhere. It's just from observation and I understand why it will be, most people will be hearing this for the first time. It's going to be an idea people will be hearing from the first time. Again, comes to validate my previous point. I look at things from the world perspective. I don't look at it from a myopic perspective of what people say and even what people say, I take it with it. And that's exactly what you're doing. Try to process it now. You're trying to take what I've said and think about it from your own perspective and grow with it. But honestly, when you think about it, you're going to find really good proof to that. And when you see, that's why you see the people who have woken up and they are anybody who is anti-woke, anybody who is anti-LGBTQ, anybody who is anti any other stupid thing, that person, if you look at it 100% of the time, the person will be anti-feminist. There is a straight correlation, a direct correlation. It's subtle because it infiltrated the system in a very sneaky way. And nobody could actually see that that's how it was coming about. But bit by bit, that's what happens. I've demonstrated it. There are several other illustrations which I could bring up if I take the time to sit down. But I don't want to go about like researchers going to prove a theory because it's what I believe in. There are things I'll sit, take my time, and I'll think about them. And maybe someday I'm going to be proven wrong. Maybe someone is going to come and give me a counter argument. I don't know.
I think from the other side of it, the part which I know that I've processed very well was especially around the side where women will start to say, I don't need a man. I don't need this. I don't need this. Where it's very clear that a lot of this is built from, it's more of anti-man, more rather than someone going, because with that, when someone says, I don't need a man, the subtle thing that I even draw from the deeper meaning is you're fighting the whole unit, which is a family unit. Right. Absolutely. Because when you say I don't need a man, you start to teach young girls they can make their own, just where the slangs come from, like boss lady, I make my own money and make this. Whereas I think that if I have a child, I will teach my girl child how to make money. In fact, I'm actually a proponent for, I don't think that my girl child is going to marry with, at least at the moment of talking right now, in my head, I'm like, my child will not get married with anything less than 10 million in our account because I want you to be a very big support to that man. But also on the flip side, I'm definitely going to teach you how to be submissive to your husband because the whole essence of everything you're learning and what you're making is being able to be submissive to that man.
Yeah.
Flip side, I also believe that the man has to earn the right for a woman to be submissive to him because it's not just you going, we're going to be submissive to men. I think that women should be submissive to men, but the man has to earn the right for that submissiveness to come true, because I won't let my daughter submit to a drunkard, somebody who does not have rational thinking.
I would personally, if I'm not taking her, I'll beat up the guy.
So that was the side from which I thought about feminism. But from you saying this, I think that this just gives me more to think about. How do you correlate some of the thoughts of what you've just shared now, and when you said on your social media that you've never seen? I want to read exactly what you said. You say you've never met a wife of met a sad wife of a polygamist. How do you relate those two? How do you correlate those two thoughts?
To be honest, that thought was I was being pensive. I wasn't insinuating anything. I was wondering, because I grew up around a lot of polygamists, and everybody I saw complaining was every woman I saw complaining, especially about a man, or men in general, were those who were with one man. I personally, I do not have the intention of being a polygamist, because I think that you need to take into account the woman's own feelings into consideration. If the woman is, I don't think, because I've never dated a woman who is okay with me being another woman, so I don't think it's ever going to happen with me. But I was just wondering, like, what can we learn from this? Is there something to learn from it? And I would not really say there is a correlation, because I don't think feminists are necessarily against polygamy. They actually say women are supposed to do what they want. So if a woman wants to be with two men, or a woman wants to be with another man who is having another woman, that's up to her. But when I look at the situation of most women being okay, I think that it's more of a situation of those women creating their happiness, and we are so concerned with what other people define as happiness in the world so much that we forget to create our own happiness. If a woman is in a polygamous home, and most of the polygamous men I know, the women don't live together. Like, they are very rich men, because you cannot be broke in Africa and be a polygamist. It's difficult, almost impossible. Okay, so most of the women, they've got their own houses, their kids live with them. The man goes from woman to woman to woman to woman. It's difficult to really see the situation like it was in traditional African setting, where you come to a house, there is the first wife in the same house, second wife in the same house, third wife in the same house. Worst case scenario, it's a compound with several buildings, and each of the wives have got their buildings. Okay. Now, I think that those women are usually happy because they are not defining their happiness based on what their friends are saying. Hey, this man is going out with this one is doing this. She's happy probably because she's been provided for everything. She can take care of her kids. She can take care of her mother, her father, her brothers. When her junior brothers have been educated by the man, her mother's health is being taken care of by the man. There are so many things which can make a person happy. And the man just being with you is actually not defined by your own internal happiness, but by what people are going to say about you.
I don't know how to explain this properly, but I feel like when people are very aware of their circumstances of a thing, they are more determined to accept it, right? For example, just what you said reminded me of a couple of years back. I met this man I had days. So a bit of my story. So many people don't know, but I've been a pastor for like a year. So when I went for my missionary journey, the pa who brought us into his house, he was a polygamist. He lived with his two wives and about 12 kids. And I stayed with him for over, I think, like 7 months of that 1 year. And the thing I realized is that they were happier. The women were like the best of friends. They would check on each other. They would cook food. They would just like, they raised their kids together. There was so much love in that home. And if I put that together with what you just said, it probably reminds me, because they were very much aware, okay, both of us have this man. It's not just one person. They had accepted the situation and it was easier to live with it. But if you put that vis-a-vis what we face in marriages right now, you'd hear a lady go, so you have a side chick outside. right? Because that has not been made open. So I wonder if what life is trying to tell us is just for us to be upfront and reveal the circumstances of what we stand for immediately. Maybe that's something to infer from that.
I think so, and I also think that we should always focus internally, just like Jackie Chan says it. Bruce Lee says it. There's nothing more important than you, yourself, at the present moment. At certain times, you need to sit down and forget about what everybody is saying and ask yourself, for real, because you have so many women who've divorced, and it's after the divorce that we are like, oh my God, I was really in something great, and I stepped out of it because other people were talking. You need to sit down, look at yourself, and ask yourself where I am currently. Am I happy? Forgetting about what everybody's saying. Am I happy? If you're happy, what's the problem? What's the problem? Your happiness doesn't have to be dependent on what someone says happiness is or isn't. It doesn't have to be dependent on that. And if you are happy in a situation and you know that happiness is going to be sustained and you're going to continue being happy, to be honest, I don't see any reason for that to be wrong. And let's like I said, let's balance emotions with logic. Let's look at it logically, right? Looking at it logically. What is the logical reason for denying polygamy? Logically, what is wrong with it? I don't think you'll find any argument. Emotionally, what's wrong with it? A lot. But are we going to be just emotional? No. We need to also balance out both sides. Logically.
And you're not saying that polygamy is good, but it's just we have to think about it logically.
Think about it logically. And it's because I processed it logically that I also thought that, okay, I don't think this is something I should get into. The logical side of it, unfortunately, was linked to my partner. Logically, I think she's going to be mad. Okay.
Right.
Like I said, he has no problem with it. That logical reason is true. Why on earth won't I be polygamous? And you as a woman, logically, what's the problem with it? Does it
logically.
Does he take care of the kids? Yes. Does he give you everything you need? Yes. Is he usually available for you? I mean, there's going to be a flimsy excuse I've heard. The man is going to be sharing your time with the others. How about people who get married to pilots, to surgeons? Those surgeons, don't they spend a pilot? How long does a pilot spend out of his country? Does he fly with you every time he's flying? I work like constantly every day from 8 a.m. till around midnight. And sometimes I need to spend the night in the office. I travel a lot. I'm traveling from today to tomorrow to the next day. I'm not going to be with the woman during that time. If logically you say a polygamist will not spend as much time with you, how about the men who work a lot? How much time do they spend with you? Logically, it doesn't make sense. And let's look at it again. Let's expand the logic and look at it from a societal perspective. Is the society a more stable place or an unstable place when there is polygamy and when there is monogamy? I'm going to look at the Muslim societies. They look more stable than our societies. Every place where there is instability, if you want to actually consider it, is mostly where there are fightings and all sorts of things. Yeah, of course, there are jihadis causing troubles up and down. But aside from jihadis, I don't see Muslim societies having any other bigger problem. And as a matter of fact, in Muslim societies, jihadis attack infidels, Americans who have visited the Muslim society, or Christians who are not respecting their laws, right? So if we're from a country like Cameroon, if you go to northern Cameroon, and northern Cameroon says that on Fridays, nobody goes out, nobody shouts, you see a nosy pastor who is going to start opening his chest and shouting. Now the jihadis will attack you. The jihadis don't attack you unprovoked. Before the US invaded Iraq and all those other countries, were you seeing jihadis coming to America to cause suicide attacks and bomb Twin Towers? No. They let America be where they want to be. Of course, Muslims did penetrate through the the jihad and the wars in the past and all of that. But in a modern society, it's been centuries we haven't heard of. And as a matter of fact, the Christian countries did penetrate way more than Muslims, because if you look at it, UK colonized almost the entire world. The US started going rampant, Germany and all. Those were Christian countries, Italy and all the rest. They cost far more wars than the jihadists had cost. Now, when you look at those societies and you look at our own societies with all this instability, I don't see a problem there. And I was just pondering over it. Now, when we go to the family setting, and curiously enough, everybody who agreed with that post was a polygamist. And everybody who disagreed came from a monogamous family. And I concluded by saying, I think those coming from the monogamous family, they are feeling it's more of the bitterness they grew up with, which is transposing. Because if there was a polygamist who truly grew up in a society or in a home where his mom or his dad was really, his mom really felt terrible, I'm sure they would have come with a long post and said, my experience is this. But I didn't see it, honestly. So I was expressing my thought.
My last question to you before we talk about the business side, where I think that there's quite a lot that you have to share around that. And this is up to you if you'd love to answer about it. But you put up a post and said about Rinyu. You said majority of people supporting Rinyu are trying to look good in public. Majority of those supporting Nomad are those who tell you the hard cold truth without fear of judgment. What was your thought process when you were putting that up, and why did you make that statement?
It's the whole. It still goes back to the whole wokeism, emotional, everything. Rinyu is being emotional, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, everybody, both parties have spoken, right? We are judging based on what both parties have exposed, right? And the only person who stated their contract was violated is Nomad. Rinyu is the one who decided to break the contract. And now, logically, if she was able to walk out of the transaction and Nomad hasn't yet gotten anything out of it, and he has the law in his hands and he's not been able to use it, I'll blame him. All right?
Right.
But he's also said he usually likes things to die down in a. I don't want to use this exact same words, but he didn't want to go the full length of the law. I don't know if he was being emotional or if he was talking logically, but now, if we look at the evidence which has been presented to us,
that's the only thing we can talk about anyway. That's just what we know.
What I would do if I were Nomad, I would go the full extent of the law to make sure, and this is why it's really good to have companies which are backed by investors, because you make such a mistake and your investors' money goes into the drain, you, the leader, are going to be in serious trouble. Because if that ever happens to me, my investors are going to tell me, go recover that money. I have to go the full extent of the law to recover the money. It's not my money. Rinyu can be going left, right, up, down. Employees have to be paid. Rents have to be paid. Investors need to be compensated. The government needs to be paid taxes. All of those need to be taken into consideration. Your preference of I don't like to work with you again has nothing to do with the rest of those people. I'm going to use the law to come after you. Use the full extent of the law. To the point where you actually understand. And when I say this, to be honest, you know that I've been involved in entertainment for some time. I've worked with entertainment for a long time till I drop them. I know to a certain extent the psychology of entertainers. Okay. Sorry to say, but majority of these people are not educated. I don't mean that they are not cool, because someone will come and tell me now that, oh, Stanley and Rinyu, they have bachelors and masters. That's not education. That's cool. Majority of them are not educated. Educated means that what? Means that when you're entering an industry as an actor in that industry, you need to know how the industry functions. If I ask them, what is the law governing music in Cameroon? No Cameroonian musician, probably except maybe Waxday and a couple of really smart musicians, will be able to tell me what law governs music in Cameroon. They are not educated. If I tell them, if I ask them, what does the something as flimsy as, what does the accounting unit of a label,
copyright terms, all of that.
What do they do? If you ask them things which need them to think in terms of education, they will not know. You know what they think? When I work with entertainers, this is what they look at. Okay, I am an entertainer. I've got my skills. I've got my talent. I'm giving them to you. Whatever you're doing with the skills and the talent, I, the entertainer, is contributing 90%. You're 10%. So if you come and give me your money in the beginning, and I use that money, and that money you gave me was 1 million, when we start making 50 million, you cannot come and tell me you're going to take 25 million or 25 million. Because that 50 million, I'm making 49 million of that 50 million. That's why you're going to see over 90% of every entertainer who gives their label, they never get anywhere. They never get anywhere. Right? Of course, it's, let me say, who leave their label before their contracts get terminated, before their contract ends. Because no matter what you do, every contract has a duration. Majority of them, they hardly get it. Because when they go out, they actually go and become, they were working with a very arrogant, wicked, stupid boss. And when they leave, they actually go and become an arrogant, wicked, stupid boss. Because they want to create a label too, and they get other artists under them. And they realize that, oh my God, I need to start paying rents. I need to start paying royalties. I need to start paying taxes. I need to be taking care of all the workers. I need to make sure that every time we are going out, there is transportation available. I need to rent vehicles. I need to make sure I keep a good image of the artist. I need to make sure this artist is not sitting in a restaurant eating Gary and Arrow and everybody seeing them because it's going to be hurting the brand. I need to spend money for all of these things. This thing wasn't easy. And you now become a terrible boss. How many people have left labels and other people are leaving their labels as well? It's a whole cycle which is not ending because nobody is getting educated. So those who are supporting, they are just supporting because they are looking at the emotional side. They haven't looked at everything it takes to bring up a business as a music business, as a label. They haven't taken into consideration all those logical aspects which you got to bring together. They're just looking because there is a girl here crying in distress and everybody's like, Rinyu, go, oh girl, we are with you, we are supporting you. And in my opinion, the cold hard truth is going to hurt and many people are going to hate it, but that's what it's supposed to be. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. To be honest, I'm going to get into some details of the experiences I have, but I had really terrible experiences, similar ones. Fortunately, I learned very early, and there was no entertainer who actually got into me and tried to screw me on my contract. Honestly, it didn't happen. I'm very ruthless when it comes to business, and none of them could do that. I got my fair share out of everybody. I just left it because I thought it wasn't profitable enough, mostly because the entertainers I was working with, they think that their talent is everything. Meanwhile, their talent is nothing. Absolutely not.
If you just enjoyed this episode, the chances are that you're going to enjoy other amazing episodes that we've recorded, so you can check that out somewhere around this video. Before you go, please make sure you check our 3 boxes. First things first, please make sure to hit the subscribe or the follow button down below, because the more we grow, the bigger guests we can approach on this platform and the more value we can bring to you here on the podcast. Second, a lot of friends always reach out to me and say something like, hey Arrey, I really did enjoy this particular segment of this episode. Pick up your phone and send this to a friend and say, hey, check this out between 10 to 15 minutes. There's something very important I'd love you to see. Number 3, please make sure to check out the links in the description for very helpful resources. You're going to find the link to join the Smart Club, which is my private mentorship club for friends who want to learn and master a high-income digital marketing skill. Whether your goal is to build your personal brand, become a freelancer, or get a job in digital marketing, the Smart Club is going to be the right place for you. So before you go, please make sure to tick those 3 boxes. Like I always say, my friends, cheers to many more years of shamelessly living and crazily excelling in passion and purpose. And I'll speak to you in the next episode.